And welcome everyone to Global Business here on CGTN. I'm Michael Wong in Beijing. The headlines we're tracking for you at this hour. China unveils a new white paper calling for joint efforts to build a more just and equitable global governance system. China's Vice Premier He Lifeng says China will continue its financial opening up, pledging broader institutional measures towards that effort. And Kevin Warsh, the new chair of the U.S. Federal Reserve, is set to lead his very first interest rate meeting later today. All right, let's take a quick look first at the Chinese mainland markets, where equities rose on Wednesday, led by gains in tech shares. The Shanghai Composite Index was up by 0.4% on the day, while the Shenzhen Component Index rose by north of 1.3%. All right, now let's take a look at how regional markets performed and how Wall Street closed out overnight. Well, first up, China's State Council and Information Office has released a white paper titled More Just and Equitable Global Government: China's Principles, Proposals, and Actions. The document outlines the concrete efforts China has made to uphold multilateralism and wisdom to promote a better world. CGTN's Zhao Yunfei explains the document.
Seeking answers to the challenges of the times, China has put forward its principles, proposals, and actions to implement the Global Governance Initiative.
The Global Governance Initiative has evolved from a Chinese proposal into international practice, increasingly demonstrating strong vitality.
Since the initiative was first proposed last September, it has gained support from nearly 160 countries and international organizations. Over 60 countries have joined the Group of Friends of Global Governance. China believes that extensive consultation and joint contributions for shared benefit are grounded in respect and learning among civilizations.
We are actively promoting the integration of the agenda for exchanges among civilizations with that of global governance, fully leveraging the guiding role of the Global Civilization Initiative and contributing the strength of civilizations to the reform and improvement of global governance.
The white paper expressed concerns over the unstable world, saying that the number of armed conflicts in 2025 have reached a new high since the end of World War II. It also specified China's commitment to the cause of global governance. According to the white paper, China is the second largest contributor to the UN peacekeeping budget and the largest troop contributor among the permanent members of the UN Security Council. China has been upholding free trade and multilateralism, being a major trading partner of over 160 countries and regions, and has signed the Belt and Road Cooperation document with over 150 countries and 30 international organizations.
As the world enters a new period of turbulence and transformation, we need more than ever to revitalize multilateralism, uphold the rule of law, and enhance governance effectiveness.
As a responsible major country, China's proposal is a commitment to upholding international rules and laws, an endeavor for the well-being of humanity. Zhao Yunfei, CGTN, Beijing.
Now, China has long played an active role when it comes to global governance, particularly on trade. As of 2025, China has become a major trading partner to over 160 countries and regions around the world. It has joined several multinational trade frameworks and held large trade fairs such as the Canton Fair and the China International Import Expo. Now, earlier this year, China made a historic decision to grant zero tariff treatment to all African countries with diplomatic ties. China has also hosted important global dialogues, including its Belt and Road Forum, the Boao Forum for Asia, the summer edition of the World Economic Forum, known as the Summer Davos. Now, in supporting Global South development, China headquarters the new development bank that aims at mobilizing infrastructure funding for BRICS nations and other developing countries. It also expanded its Global Development and South-South Cooperation Fund to $4 billion last year. Now, diplomats and top officials say China's global governance initiative offers a cooperative framework for the Global South amid challenges and crises.
The Global Governance Initiative provides a framework on the basis of which the Global South can not only cooperate, but the Global South can also drive the global GDP, the global growth, and the global good.
Actually, the Global Governance Initiative launched by China is coming at a very difficult time. It's coming at a time where the multilateralism, the system of multilateralism, specifically the UN and so many other UN organs and institutions are just coming to a phase where they are frozen at so many difficult issues, issues of different interests to so many countries. Maybe with this initiative, we are being given a new hope.
And for more on how China views global governance, I want to bring in Zhang Gong, professor of economics at the University of International Business and Economics. Professor, always great to have you on the program. Let's start with the big picture first. What signals does the white paper, you think, send about China's future approach when it comes to global governance?
Well, I think against the backdrop of a tumultuous world, I think China stands up tall and strong that we're going to uphold multilateralism. We're going to uphold sovereign equality. We're going to do real things. We're going to be adopting a people-based approach. I mean, these are the 5 principles embedded in this very important initiative. I think this is a position document that guides China's foreign policy, that guides China's playing its role in international organizations into the future.
Right, and Professor, of course, APEC 2026 will be held in China this year. Which reforms do you think are China likely to prioritize at APEC and other multilateral forums this year?
Well, I think the APEC summit in China that are going to be held later this year will be probably centering around taking real actions to push forward this vision in the Asian Pacific area. I think, it's more than just about a cooperation at a political level, at a security level, but more at the economic level, I would argue. I mean, if you look at this document coming from the foreign ministry, there's actually quite a bit of the document talking about economic cooperation, talking about, I would call it re-globalization, pushing back against protectionism, for example. I think on the economic side, there are probably going to be more action items in the coming APEC summit later this year.
And Professor, how is China's continued opening up, you think, going to reshape the rules of global trade and economic governance?
Yeah, this is exactly what I'm talking about. I think we are facing a lot of challenges. There's essentially a trend towards more sort of protectionism, more localism, I would say, and China stands against that. And by opening up ourselves, by upholding the age-old banner of free trade. China is continuing this banner of free trade, against all these adverse developments. And I think, by opening up, by adhering to free trade, China offers a lot of opportunities for other countries. And that's really a great opportunity for many countries, especially in the global South, to be together with China's position and also participate in reaping benefits from China's opening up and benefits of free trade and re-globalization. I think, we're not just talking about these things sort of rhetorically. We're actually doing real actions, and there are real benefits that countries are willing to stand with us in sticking to this position.
Yeah. And Professor, speaking of opportunities for the Global South, we know, of course, China has now lifted all foreign investment restrictions in manufacturing and also granted zero tariffs to African imports. How do these policies, you think, balance China's own development goals with the needs of the Global South?
Well, I think it's a great example of how China really opens up. I think the commitment to zero tariff to practically bulk of the African countries, I believe, is a real commitment to free trade, particularly kind of a framework that these countries can greatly benefit from China's economic growth. And in terms of benefiting our agenda, I want to point out that China's growth prospect is indispensable with a further, enhancement of free trade, further enhancement of globalization. We are essentially, a great exporter country. You look at our trade positions with many countries. We enjoy a lot of trade surplus. The total aggregate surplus is on track to reach, I would say, $1.2 trillion this year, and that's we're in a terrific position to essentially continue to opening up and offer these more importing opportunities for other countries. I mean, China's importing opportunities for other countries, and that certainly is going to uplift these countries' economy, offering jobs, opportunities. Of exporting to China. Essentially, I would say China is taking over the United States to play a role in the international trade arena, just as the United States did, 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah, well, zero tariffs to all African countries which have diplomatic relations with China. I think that is a massive policy measure when it comes to market access. Professor, we are going to leave it there. Many thanks, as always, Professor Zhang Gong from the University of International Business and Economics. Well, the 7th Qingdao Multinational Summit, which has brought together global industry leaders in the Chinese market, draws to a close on Wednesday. This year's closing coincides with the fresh release of a landmark report on China's contribution to global governance reform, a topic that dominated discussions on the floor. Against a backdrop of rising global protectionism and shifting supply chains, attendees increasingly view China's 15th five-year plan and its commitment to institutional opening up as a crucial economic stabilizer. By championing rules-based multilateralism and driving tangible development initiatives, China is not only creating predictable market opportunities for multinationals, but also effectively amplifying the voice and developmental priorities of the Global South.
If you look at our renewable energy in all of those countries we're in, 99% of the renewable equipment was purchased from China. And if you look at our projects, we have almost 110 projects around the world. Almost half of them were done by Chinese EPCs. So China's engineering excellence, China's quality and efficient delivery of projects, coupled with Aqua's strong presence in those countries and long-term operational reliability, I believe helped us a lot. It's thanks to the Belt and Road. We continue to bring higher and higher quality projects, more and more efficiency to those customers in those countries.
China has been a leader in the discussions within the global trading system and in the WTO on trying to maintain open, transparent, rules-based trade. Because without the rules, it may not be great, but without them, it will be worse. So let's try to fix what we have and not simply destroy it. And I think where China is now is that it can play that significant role in helping to keep the process open, keep it transparent, continue to push on the investment facilitation, on the e-commerce platforms, on the need for development. I think China has been one of the countries that has been most open and most interested in advocacy for the development dimension in the WTO.
And up next, here on Global Business. China's Vice Premier He Lifeng says China will continue its financial opening up, pledging broader institutional measures towards that endeavor.
Supply chains. How China and the world are working together to make them more resilient than ever. Closing gaps across links. Connecting consumers, businesses, markets, and nations. This June in Beijing, The 4th China International Supply Chain Expo brings the world's leading experts and companies together in one place. Watch CGTN for comprehensive coverage of the latest trends and technologies. June 22nd to June 26th, only on CGTN.
The world economy as we know it is about to change. Global business reports highlight emerging markets, developing countries, and dynamic sectors worldwide. We feature top analysts and newsmakers to provide perspectives on every facet of business. From an on-the-ground perspective, we provide you with balanced and objective assessments. Fast, sharp, and insightful. Global business. Only on CGTN.
The 2026 Lujiazui Forum, that's one of China's most influential annual financial conferences, has kicked off over in Shanghai. The two-day event gathers more than 70 financial policymakers, regulators, and industry leaders from around the world to discuss financial cooperation under the Global Governance Initiative. Our reporter Wang Jianyu has more.
It's been almost a tradition for major financial policies and signals to be released at the Lujiazui Forum. This year, it's all about offshore finance.
We will support Shanghai in pioneering offshore finance, and we will launch a new action plan soon aimed at building an offshore financial system that matches the city's status as an international financial center. We will pilot businesses including offshore trade financing, bonds, reinsurance, and RMB trading, while expanding related products and improving the regulatory framework.
The forum is jointly hosted by China's central bank, financial regulators, and the Shanghai municipal government. On one hand, officials called for stronger regulation and tougher action against market misconduct. On the other, they pledged to further open up China's capital markets.
We will further develop a multi-level financial market system, including technology-focused segments in both equity and bond markets. By expanding financial products and improving market inclusiveness, we aim to better serve companies of all sizes and stages of growth, strengthen support for technological innovation, and attract more long-term investment into capital markets.
During the forum, participants will also explore how technology is reshaping the financial sector, from innovation in financial services to building stronger support systems for the real economy. Organizers say the goal is to generate new ideas for global economic development, financial stability, and future cooperation at a time when countries are navigating an increasingly complex global economic landscape. Wang Tianyu, CGTN, Shanghai.
And for the latest from the Lujiazui Forum and the key messages coming out of Shanghai, let's indeed check in with our Wang Tianyu on the ground. Tianyu, thanks for joining us. So give us a quick rundown of the main highlights at this year's Lujiazui Forum.
Well, Michael, as you said, the Lujiazui Forum is one of China's top financial meetings, and since 2008, it has become a key platform for financial policy direction, unveiling, and advancing financial opening up. And this year's theme is financial development and cooperation under global governance initiatives, new vision, new challenges, and new opportunities. It comes at a time when China just released a white paper on the global governance earlier today, and it underscores the broader policy context behind this year's discussions. And at this year's forum, the Vice Premier He Lifeng delivered an 18-minute keynote speech. He is seen as one of the most senior central government officials to attend this forum in person in 7 years. And last time it was 2019 by the former Vice Premier Liu He. And so in He Lifeng's remarks, he highlighted China's push to accelerate the development of offshore finance and strengthen financial regulation. He also stressed peaceful coexistence and win-win cooperation under international rule and multilateralism. He said China will continue to improve its financial legal framework and safeguard financial security. And let's take a listen to what he said.
中方始终坚定认为，无论世界风云变幻，
We firmly believe that greater connectivity remains the global trend, and win-win cooperation is what people want. As a Chinese saying goes, harmony brings prosperity. We call for stronger cooperation in global finance and an end to zero-sum thinking, to better manage risks and challenges.
Meanwhile, 26 overseas financial institutions have signed a deal with ECNY Center International to become the first direct participants in the digital yuan's cross-border settlement system. Now, that deal will allow these financial institutions to directly access the cross-border ECNY transfer services. That would be a 24/7 intelligent digital payment services system designed for both on-chain and off-chain scenarios. It will help financial institutions reduce the settlement period from several working days to just a few hours. The 26 financial institutions' operations cover countries including Singapore, Qatar, and Brazil, and regions such as Hong Kong and Macau. The Beijing CBD Forum, taking place from June 15th to 17th in Beijing, convenes management agencies from over 40 global business districts and commercial zones, including Beijing, Paris, Chicago, Toronto, Montreal, Shanghai, and Guangzhou. Our Zhang Shuang has more.
The forum centered on the theme Opening Up and New Quality. Global Shifts and China's New Chapter brought together participants to explore how international consumption hub cities can drive regional consumer vitality, urban renewal, and deeper cooperation with multinational corporations and countries.
La Défense, the business district of Paris, is actually one of the oldest traditional business districts in the world. Today is the focus is on climate, on geopolitics, but before it would be financial shifts, etc. So La Défense went through all these crises, and then I think we can share this experience and inspire maybe younger CBDs to adapt and to design new strategies.
The forum signed the Global Business District Economic and Trade Cooperation Mechanism, which facilitates targeted lending support and partnership matchmaking for member districts through the sharing of corporate resources, reinvestment leads, and market intelligence.
Just this morning, we did a tour of the Guamao underpass corridor and the improvements they've been doing there. And that's a challenge we've been coming up with ideas for in Toronto for 10 years now. They have an ice skating rink under the highway now in Toronto. So I was sharing pictures of new lighting and programs that we have to improve our underpasses in Toronto with their team here from Beijing just this morning.
During the forum, the Global Business District Innovation Federation welcomed Mascad Oman as a new member, bringing its total membership to 15. Mascad's accession fills a gap in the Federation's Middle East network and establishes it as a keynote connecting the Belt and Road Initiative.
And most importantly, the structure, the infrastructure, is very, very important for opening up the business. It must be quality, well-connected, airport, train, metro service. Everything is related to how you do business and how also then we can attract foreign people. If I want to bring my, let's say, people coming from Italy as an expatriate, of course they come, but they need to make sure that they have a proper housing, a proper schools for the kids, and everything is connected and related. Not every country, every city in China can do that. So this is a plus that I see.
With over 16,000 foreign invested institutions and 125 multinational corporations headquartered there, Beijing Central Business District has firmly established itself as a premier global hub for resource allocation. Looking ahead, Beijing will continue to play a pivotal role in international engagement, driving global economic prosperity and development. Zhang Shuang, CGTN, Beijing.
Canlibers is one of the multinationals that have been in China for over 3 decades now. It was the first German company to settle in East China's city of Taicang, which is known as the hometown of German enterprises for its 560 such businesses. Our reporter Wu Bin spoke to the company's CEO and president to find out the reasons behind its latest investment.
This German entrepreneur on the left is Erich Specker, the CEO and president of spring and stamping manufacturer Karl Liebers.
Welcome to Karl Liebers Taicang.
He traveled from Germany to Taicang City in eastern China to announce the latest investment his company has made.
I'm here because we are signing a big investment contract. We've been decided to invest more money into this facility or in our facilities in China.
The investment is worth $20 million and it's the company's 12th investment in the city. Eric then takes me to a wall showing the company's history and points to a picture on the wall.
Here, in 1993, that's where you started in China.
Absolutely right, correct. Yeah, 1993 is our foundation in China, in Taicang. We were the first foreign-owned company in Taicang a long time ago. One, very clearly, the strategic location of Taicang. Taicang has a port. Taicang is close to Shanghai. Secondly, I think when you make that decision, there's a lot of intuition going into that decision at the time. And one intuition was the welcoming atmosphere we received in Taicang. And thirdly, and that probably sounds funny, is pine trees. You know, pine trees, there are many pine trees in Taicang. And Karl Liebers is located deep in the Black Forest in Germany. And there are a lot of pine trees in the Black Forest. So the feeling of home when we came to Taicang was very strong, related to trees.
Now, after over 3 decades of development, the company has developed from just 6 employees to over 1,000 employees.
So this is one of the company's production centers. In 1993, the size of the factory was just about 400 square meters. And now it stands to 50,000 square meters, around 125 times larger than the old one. And around 700 equipments are running simultaneously here to produce all the parts needed for your car.
Today, the production of auto parts has become a key pillar for the local economy. German companies now have more reasons to stay here, from a German-style town to the city's vocational education system that trains more than 10,000 skilled workers locally.
More than 560 German enterprises have settled in Taicang since the first one in 1993. It takes 14 years to develop from the first to 100th, but it just takes 2 years from our 400th to 500th German enterprises.
German Chancellor Friedrich Merz visited China in February this year, leading a large delegation with almost 30 leading German firms. Enterprises from both sides inked over 10 business agreements in sectors including automobiles, machinery, and energy. And 3 projects are in Taicang, including a zero-carbon park that will focus on green transition of enterprises.
Strategic position and value of China for German companies is increasing in China. The combination of market scale, the industrial ecosystem, the innovation and the stable development in China. So I think these 4 factors make China irreplaceable for German companies to stay global competitiveness.
China has once again become Germany's most important trading partner in 2025. And German enterprises' investment into China has hit a record high since 2021. Wu Bin, CGTN, Taicang, Jiangsu Province.
Now, as China and Germany deepen cooperation across key sectors, including automotive, chemicals, machinery manufacturing, and the circular economy, German companies are now weighing growth opportunities against challenges arising from trade tensions and geopolitical uncertainty. Our reporter Bian spoke with Michael Kern, the executive director for East China at the German Chamber of Commerce in China, about the bilateral business environment and the competitiveness of German companies here in the Chinese market.
Thanks for joining on CGTN, Mr. Kiang. We know following German Chancellor Merz's successful visit to China in February, the China-Germany relations have entered a new phase. What positive signals do you think this high-level engagement sent to German companies in China? And what new opportunities in economic cooperation are most worth noting?
I completely agree on this high-level political visits
are much appreciated, especially also by the German companies active here in China, because they show the possibility to optimize economic framework, circumstances for doing business here. It was a beginning of a couple of series of political visits, and this is also perhaps an interesting momentum to arrange also a round table for investing in Germany, where also Chinese companies had the possibility to showcase and to present their business model. So this emphasized that, of course, Germany is interested in a continued dialogue.
Amid growing trade protectionism tendency in the EU, German companies have long been deeply invested in Chinese market. So how do you evaluate China's strategic value in this context? And how do these factors influence German companies' willingness or capability to invest or expand in China?
Yes, first of all, and it's very important that you mention that German companies are very often or almost all the time interested in long-term investments, long-term relationships. Facing these challenges which we see at the moment, also on a geopolitical basis, of course, they also have to adjust, so they stay committed. That shows the results of our survey, where more than 90% of the companies which we ask intend to stay, intend to invest here. They also intend to diversify, and this is a kind of risk management they are implementing now to face these challenges which we see worldwide concerning, let's say, rising tariffs, concerning geopolitical uncertainty. But at the end of the day, they base their investment and their economic activities on fundamental economic data. They are going to invest, they're going to stay. And more than 60% of them also will invest and are going to invest in the future in order to stay competitive, to deliver products for the Chinese market and partnering up more and more with Chinese companies, also potentially serving global markets.
And up next here on Global Business. Kevin Warsh, the new chair of the U.S. Federal Reserve, is set to lead his first interest rate meeting later today.
The world economy as we know it is about to change. Global business reports highlight emerging markets, developing countries, and dynamic sectors worldwide. We feature top analysts and newsmakers to provide perspectives on every facet of business. From an on-the-ground perspective, we provide you with balanced and objective assessments. Fast, sharp, and insightful. Global Business. Only on CGTN.
The new chair of the U.S. Central Bank is set to lead his very first interest rate meeting later today. Kevin Warsh and the board of the Federal Reserve must decide on changing or holding the rate that has had a huge impact on the global economy. Between rising inflation and political pressures, it's a big first test, as our Owen Faircloth reports.
Kevin Warsh promised regime change when he was nominated to run the U.S. Central Bank.
Status quo practices and policies are especially harmful when the world is changing this fast.
But as Warsh oversees his first decision as chair of the U.S. Federal Reserve, reality may be biting.
Surging fuel prices caused by the Strait of Hormuz blockade have reignited inflation. And that's typically a reason for the Fed to try to counter rising prices by raising its main interest rate. But Warsh has said he thinks that inflation isn't as high as conventional measures suggest, and that there's room to cut that main interest rate to make the cost of borrowing, things like mortgages and expanding a business, cheaper over time.
For some investors and analysts, that means the Fed is faced with tough choices.
That inflation eventually has to flow through the economy, and consumers are feeling it at the gas pump. We're seeing it in the cost of goods and shipping of goods.
And if fighting resurgent inflation isn't hard enough, Warsh has taken over with the Fed facing threats to its cherished independence, though he insists he'll protect it.
Are you going to be the president's human sock puppet? Senator, absolutely not.
Trump tried to fire Warsh's predecessor, Jerome Powell, whom he also handpicked for the role. partly for resisting the president's demand to cut that rate. But he seems to be giving Walsh an easier ride so far.
I want him to be independent and just do a great job. Don't look at me.
Pressure or no pressure, the apparent resolution of the US-Israel conflict with Iran just days before Walsh and the Fed board vote on what to do with that interest rate may also change the outlook.
If we can reopen the strait, fix the infrastructure, get oil flowing again, and bring the price of oil down, that'll be the single biggest impact on inflation numbers. And it'll make the Fed's job a whole lot easier.
But if the monetary policy now looks a bit more straightforward, the politics engulfing the Fed is likely to remain. Powell has broken convention by remaining on the Fed's board to fight both Trump's attempts to influence that interest rate and legal action over a renovation project. Owen Fairclough, CGTN, Washington.
The European Parliament has approved a U.S. trade deal struck last year, all in an attempt to avert a new round of transatlantic tariff conflict. Now, under that agreement, the EU will eliminate duties on U.S. industrial goods, bringing them down to zero. In contrast, European exporters to the United States will still face a 15% tariff.
And this deal is still unbalanced. 15% tariff for our products to the United States and zero tariffs for U.S. products coming to the European Union. But nevertheless, this was the deal concluded, and now it was so important for us to have a safety net, that we have a guarantee that if the United States are not respecting this deal, that we can react.
The deal was initially agreed to last July, but the EU's delay in implementation has prompted U.S. President Donald Trump to threaten much higher tariffs unless the bloc acts by July 4th. The EU's approval of the legislation is expected to avert Trump's tariff threat, though it leaves several uncertainties unresolved. On Monday, President Trump also said he would impose 100% tariffs on French wine unless Paris eliminates its digital services tax. The EU has vowed to respond if the United States breaches the terms of the agreement. The chief of the International Energy Agency says unconditionally opening the Strait of Hormuz to Gulf tanker traffic is essential to ending the current energy crisis. IEA Chief Fatih Birol told the press on Tuesday that the single most important solution to this problem is to fully and unconditionally open up the Strait of Hormuz to shipping. The newly announced peace deal between the United States and Iran has called for the strait to be opened, but the two sides are reportedly divided on the future management and toll fees at the strait. The IEA also specifically suggested that Southeast Asia should carry out a structural reform regarding energy supply, reducing its reliance on oil and natural gas shipped through Hormuz. The IEA warned that the cost of fuel import in the region could triple from 2024 to 2035, based on the status quo. Now, while the conflict is concentrated in the Middle East, its impact, of course, extends far beyond that region. Across Africa, many countries are grappling with higher fuel costs, rising food prices, and mounting pressure on already fragile economies. CGTN's Robert Nagila takes a closer look.
The first sector across Africa to feel the impact of the conflict was energy and petroleum. Global oil prices surged, with Brent crude briefly rising above $119 a barrel in March, soon after the conflict erupted. A blockade of the Strait of Hormuz by Iran and the United States severely disrupted supply chains and pushed up fuel costs across the continent, triggering shortages in some countries and higher pump prices in others.
Some countries have been worse hit than others. Some have managed to use subsidies, etc., to cushion, for example, the fuel prices, to not make it too high, while others have not managed to do that. Nigeria, for example, which is the largest producer of oil on the African continent, its fuel prices went up the highest.
Agriculture was also hit. The Middle East is also a major supplier of fertilizer to Africa. Disruptions to production and trading routes drove up prices during the critical March to May planting season. A United Nations report warned that higher input costs would likely translate into rising food prices, with low-income households bearing the greatest burden. The conflict also affected remittance flows from millions of African workers in the Middle East, reducing a key source of income for many families across the continent. At the same time, the African Development Bank says at least 29 African currencies weakened against the US dollar, increasing the cost of servicing external debt. Interestingly, though, some countries recorded gains amidst the conflict in the Middle East. A joint policy brief by the African Union, the United Nations and the African Development Bank says Nigeria benefited from higher oil prices and increased exports from the Dangote refinery, while Mozambique saw renewed momentum in its liquefied natural gas sector. Ports in South Africa, Namibia and Mauritius also handled more traffic as vessels avoided the Red Sea and rerouted around the Cape of Good Hope. Kenya emerged as an important logistics hub through the port of Lamu, while Ethiopian Airlines expanded its role as a key air link between Asia, Africa and Europe. But the report cautions the gains may be temporary and may not be enough to offset the broader inflationary and fiscal pressures facing most parts of the continent. Robert Nagila, CGTN.
And that's going to wrap up this edition of Global Business. I'm Michael Wong here in Beijing. Coming up next here on CGTN is The World Today with Wang Mama. We'll see you again next time.